This is the Tango Alpha Lima podcast.
They call me crazy cause I'm facing all my giants. They try to scare me into thinking I can fight it. They tell me I should never even think of trying. But that's just me, I'm gonna live out in defiance.
All right, welcome Alphas. Today, Stacy and I will be running the show as Joe couldn't make it today because he's currently on a top secret mission testing the durability of camo Crocs in the field. Or I should say camo Croc in the field because he just has the one leg. The objective is classified, but let's just say it involves a kayak, a pack of wild turkeys, and a questionable amount of bug spray. We're hoping he'll be back in one piece if the turkeys let him go.
Wait, I have a question, Adam. Does Galaxy, his service dog, does Galaxy get his own set of service dog Crocs?
No, he's in this special dog rucksack that he has to carry. A
dog sack?
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Like he's latched on like Yoda?
No. Where is he really, Stacy?
No, I hear Joe's actually on Capitol Hill doing a very important task on behalf of service and guide dogs. He's working to get the next coin for the U.S. Mint out. So, all the money raised for those coins will go toward service dogs for America's Vet Dogs. So what he's doing on Capitol Hill is obviously very, very noble work. And all Crocs aside, good things for him. But that leaves you and me to do the dirty work.
Yeah, that's right. And in the meantime, we do have some dirty work to do, aka a great show. Our guest is Besa Pinchotti, the CEO of the National Military Family Association, or NMFA, as we like to say. And they work with families to identify and solve the unique challenges of military life. So it really is a great show.
You're a family man, right? You have kids?
Did you have
a family when you were in the service?
Yeah, I did. Let's see. I think I met my wife when I was a first lieutenant because she was at my 03 pinning. So I pinned first lieutenant in flight school, and I think I met her around the same time.
Adam, how drunk were you when you met her? You sound like you forgot. Jesus.
Well, I just couldn't remember which promotion, because I wasn't married to her or like dating her from the onset. So I just couldn't remember if I had already become an 03.
Should I give her a call? Like, how long have you been married now?
15 years.
Oh, that's good. That's redeemable. So did you ever
15 years, the same woman, only woman, and we only have kids with each other, both of us.
Well, that's good. Well, that's not to say that people who have a Brady Bunch kind of family. Did you ever PCS with kids?
Yeah, for sure.
Did you ever have to use resources like NMFA?
No, we didn't. I mean, I wish I would have. And actually, talking with Besa, there are some things that I think I'm going to refer my wife to for some support. So no, I don't think we knew like so much about many of the resources available at the time, and I think I tried to just like take it all on myself and do it myself. Probably why I needed so much help on the back end.
You need all the help you can get.
Yeah, that's why I got you.
Okay, Alphas, please stick around. We'll be right back with Besa Pinchotti, and Adam can learn a little bit about what it's like to actually ask for help right after the break.
As a veteran, you've done more than your fair share of providing support. Now it's our turn. Introducing the WellCare and the American Legion Partnership and the WellCare Medicare Advantage plans that give you more support, more access, and more benefits in addition to your VA benefits. Visit wellcareforveterans.com today or call 844-917-1165. Ohana Health Plan, a plan offered by WellCare Health Insurance of Arizona, Inc. New Mexico Dual Eligible Special Needs Plan, DSNP members. As a WellCare by Allwell DSNP member, you have coverage from both Medicare and Medicaid. Medicaid services are funded in part by the state of New Mexico. New Mexico Medicaid benefits may be limited to payment of Medicare premiums for some members.
All right, y'all, we are joined by National Military Family Association CEO Besa Pinchotti. Welcome to the Tango Alpha Lima podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, Besa, welcome. It's great to have you on the show. Definitely looking forward to learning more about you and the NMFA today. And your journey with them has covered so many facets of military life. Can you tell us a little bit about what first drew you to this mission? Was there a specific story or experience from your reporting days that really kind of motivated you to dedicate your career to supporting military families?
Actually, yes, there are two people that forever changed my perspective on supporting military families. So I moved to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, beginning of the Iraq War. And one of my jobs there at the ABC affiliate was talking to families when a service member, a Marine in this case, was killed in Iraq. And it was happening a lot, especially at the very beginning of the war. So I remember I went to this woman's house, knocked on her door. Her name was Janina Bitts. She was married to Sergeant Michael Bitts, and he was one of those first Marines. And I asked her, did she want to talk? Did she want to tell Michael's story? She didn't. She said, today is not the day, but I'll take your card and I'll talk to you soon. And so as I was leaving, I saw a news reporter climbing up her trailer to take a picture of her and her kids on the day that she found out that her husband was killed in Iraq. A couple weeks later, she called me and she said, I want to talk to you now, but I don't want to talk to you about Michael. I want to talk to you about the fact that it is so unfair that people like me are dealing with that on the day that we found out that our husband died, that our wife died. And so she started fighting to change that. She wanted to change it to where there was a 24-hour waiting period. And she did. She took that thing that happened to her and wanted to do something about it so that no one else would ever have to feel that. And she did. And so she is one of those people. And I stay in touch with her. She is so inspiring. She made that change for someone else, even though she couldn't make it for herself. The other person is Jerry Ensminger. He came to our ABC affiliate offices and he kept telling me, the Marine Corps killed my daughter. And he had a story about water contamination and his daughter, Janie, and who had died of cancer when she was very young. And it was such an injustice. This could not happen. And I ended up following him. I came to DC with him as he testified before Congress, and he was fighting this fight. And this was, a long time ago, right around that same time, beginning of the Iraq War. And fast forward, when the PACT Act was signed at the White House, I was there just in celebration of that PACT Act being signed. And I looked up on stage and Jerry Ensminger was there on the stage at the White House for this signing. And we locked eyes and our eyes just filled with tears. And I went up to him afterward and I said, Jerry, you did it. And he said, if someone killed your daughter, you would have done it too. Mm. And those are the two people that really inspire me, move me, made me want to do this all the time because they experienced something themselves and wanted to make it better for others. They knew they couldn't fix it for themselves. And that's actually what NMFA is all about and started as. It started with 5 women sitting around a kitchen table and their friends whose husbands, loved ones were killed in Vietnam weren't being taken care of. There was no survivor benefit. So those women marched up to Capitol Hill and they started fighting for it. And that was the start of our organization. And we've been doing advocacy work like that ever since. So being here is just truly a dream for me because it brings everything full circle. It's these people that I knew, that I was inspired by, in the community that I lived in. I ended up marrying into. I married a Marine while I was there. And now to get to make change for the families who serve silently, sacrifice so much. It's an honor to do this work every day.
Wow.
Oh, well, thank you for that, Bess, and thank you for spotlighting those incredible, powerful stories. And I think, Stacy and I get to talk a lot to people about some of the worst, times in their life, and the ones that are able to use that to make it about somebody else, about making it where somebody didn't have to go through what they go through. I think those are the greatest heroes that our country has. And so thank you for sharing the foundations of what inspired you, to go forward.
I can't say that I could be any more disgusted from a journalist standpoint. I'm sure you are too, that somebody behaved like that. That's appalling.
Felt sick. I did.
That's disgusting. But obviously you're a much more upstanding person than that. And thank you for what you're doing, what you did then, and respecting her boundaries, but what you're doing now as well. And as a military spouse, thank you for your service. And in preparation for this episode, I ended up doing a deep dive into the NMFA. I knew sort of peripherally about the organization, but had not known to what extent the organization did for military families. And so I went in and I learned a lot more about the programs. So what I found out was that there was Bloom for military teens, Operation Purple for the military kids, and then spouse scholarships, which was for pretty self-explanatory. Can you talk to me, and for the alphas listening, a little bit about an overview of these programs and perhaps how alphas who are listening can utilize them?
Absolutely. So I mentioned the advocacy, and that's truly the core of everything we do. But at that same time, that beginning of the Iraq War, there were all of these emerging needs, and families needed support right then and there. Advocacy takes a long time. 7 years is what we say is average. Really, in a lot of cases, it's a lot longer than that. And so we developed these programs. And the first one, as you mentioned, is Operation Purple Camp. And so these are camps for military kids at different locations all around the country, beautiful locations. And what the kids do at camp is they get to go there for free. They put down their phones, which that's a really big thing now, putting down their phones, being out in nature, being with kids who understand exactly what they're going through. And there's this curriculum that's in place that they don't even realize is happening because it's fun stuff. So there might be a STEM activity that teaches them about stress tolerance, or maybe there's some kind of athletic competition that's all about teamwork and communication. So they're learning a lot of these soft skills that they're going to be able to take back with them into their day-to-day life so that they're ready for the challenges ahead. So that's our Operation Purple program. Our military spouse scholarship program, I think what makes it different than a lot of scholarship programs is the fact that it's not just for your degree. Military spouses, are always trying to cobble together a career because you're moving every 2 to 3 years. And anyone who's a military spouse knows what our resumes can look like. But these scholarship programs, it can be for a license, a certification. We also give funding to military spouse entrepreneurs who are working to have their own business because they found that that's the way that they can continue to make ends meet. So that's our scholarship program. And we're really trying to set up military spouses for success in a lot of different ways. But when I first came here to NMFA, times were different. So I've been here 11 years. And I remember our scholarship program then, we talked a lot about the hopes and the dreams of military spouses and how it was really important that they didn't lose those hopes and dreams. While that conversation is still meaningful to me, it has really shifted. And now it's about helping to support their military family financially. It's about financial security, the struggles that families are going through, and the fact that spouses have to work to help their families make ends meet. That conversation has changed over time, but it's really about empowering spouses to better support their families, both in active duty and then also through the transition, because one of the key indicators of success for a military family who's transitioning out is whether that military spouse is working. And then our third program is called Bloom, and it's Bloom Empowering the Military Teen. And this is our newest program. And it's one that we adopted because military teens created this for military teens. There were 2 teens, Matthew and Elena. One of them PCS'd overseas to Korea, another to a different part of the country, and they were having such a hard time. They were not doing well mentally, socially, they were very stressed, and they just felt like they had lost their support system once again. So they created this community called Bloom, and it started to grow, communicating online with each other, sharing their stories, artwork, music, all different types of ways that they would express themselves. And then we began working with them to do research on military teens and what is happening with military teens. So this is our 4th year. We've done the Military Teen Experience Survey that we release annually. And when those 2 founders went to college, not wanting the program to go away because it is so important, especially for all the teens who are coming up, they ended up handing their baby, their Bloom baby, over to NMFA, and we have been hosting the program ever since. We keep it really authentic. We don't tell the teens what to say to each other. We might softly send something their way, and if they think that it's helpful or meaningful to the teens that they communicate with, they share it. But teens don't want to hear from us. I mean, I have 2 at home and they don't want to talk to me. They want to talk to each other. And so we keep that authentic part, but we also make sure that there's programming that supports them in their endeavors and their leadership. So that's the part that we are working with the teens to create. And it's the exciting stuff that's coming up. We make sure that they have a seat at the table is one thing that we always say. We say, we're not going to talk about you without you. And so making sure they're at the table, talking to Secretary of Education and in other arenas where it's really important that their perspective is understood.
Thanks for that. I appreciate it.
Bessa, I think that's exceptional. And, you know, I'm the director of operations for an advocacy organization, the Veteran Mental Health Leadership Coalition. So we advocate on behalf of veterans to get access to breakthrough therapies. And what you said hits the nail on the head. You know, we've only been an organization. I mean, we just officially got our 501c19. We've been doing the work for maybe about, 3 years, but you said 7 years, to kind of see it through the space. And then you feel the pain because we're movers and shakers, right? We're problem solvers. We want to see impact now. So I love how you guys created these breadth of programs to be able to meet a critical need now while you're still pushing, on the advocacy front. And advocacy is really hard too, not just for the bureaucracy of what like we're up against to try and make that change within the system, but even like as it pertains to me, in order to go and have those conversations, you're representing the members and the organizations and those personal stories like the one that you shared at the beginning. And oftentimes you're having to tune in to kind of the worst experience in somebody's life over and over again as like your line of work. And so that can be challenging for folks. And I think for me, like if we're not talking like the worst trauma of your life, I'm like, what are we doing here? Because that's just kind of how it's been. So I know advocating for military family support can be tough, especially with policy changes. When you're fighting for things like quality of life recommendations, what keeps you motivated? What keeps the organization motivated? And what is about these policy issues that feels maybe most urgent to you in the organization right now?
Well, what keeps me motivated is the families for sure, and knowing the needs and the people that we talk to. And to your point, hearing those vulnerabilities over and over and over again. You hit the nail on the head with kind of like the advocacy secret sauce. And one is the families and the stories for sure. That's one piece. The other part is the data. So when we have applications come in, whether it's for scholarships or our camps, it's a survey process that is about selecting recipients and campers, but it's also about hearing each military family's experience. And we gather that data along with our teen data, and we use that when we're making the case to Congress. And that's also where we meet a lot of the families who become those voices, because now we have a trusting relationship. Their kids have spent time with us. We've supported them, in their career endeavors. And those are the families that we're often able to take to the Hill and use that data to push for change. Right now, when I think about what's critical, what's happening with military families, we're really focused on 2 areas: mental well-being. You know that really well in your work. And the other is financial security. And they're really, really connected. And right now, one of the things that we're focused on is the military family quality of life recommendations that the House Armed Services Committee put forth. We were really active in that. we brought in families. I was able to talk to them about what we saw were the most important things faced by military families. They made it through the House with full support, bipartisan support, but now they're in the Senate and things just continue to get whittled down. So we're waiting for the NDAA, as we always do, and we're pushing for specific things. And one of the things, and this is the thing that's going to get the most pushback and has continued to, is the pay increase for junior enlisted service members. That number, it's the recommended number is 19%. They're talking to us about what a big number that is and how much of the budget that,
Wow.
and it absolutely is. But our military families are not doing okay when they have 25% food insecurity. And that's the DoD number. If you ask our military teens, the number is way higher than that. We know military spouse unemployment is over 20%, and it has been for over a decade. There's, we're looking at the data for how military families are doing financially versus the civilian population. And when you look at the fact that military families are making on average $14,000 less a year than civilians, and that's the family's income. So it's considering military spouse employment. You're asking military spouses to get up and move and change jobs and get their kids in new schools and set their families up for success with no support system over and over and over again. Their careers are suffering, and then the family's finances are suffering too. And we find that that is most true in the younger enlisted families. And so we're really pushing for that pay increase. And there's also some things that are preventing military families from getting support they need in the way of SNAP and other financial assistance. They're counting basic allowance for housing in that equation. And the math just isn't making sense. As my teens would say, the math isn't mathing. The families who need the support aren't able to access it. And so that's another thing that we're really pushing to change through these quality of life initiatives. And so it's really about the finances, because you can't worry about much else if you can't get food on the table.
No, I love that so much. And I'm so grateful for you guys and in the work that you're doing. And specifically, on the spouse's side too, because, when I was in the military and then, getting out, some of the greatest catalysts, for change came like from my spouse. So the ability to equip them and support them and help them process through whatever challenge and whatever season like they're going through. And you nailed the head on some of the things, very well. But like my wife's ability to transcend some of the things before I was able to, and then kind of be like the driver to help, pull me along out of some areas like where I needed help. So where you can strengthen them, it's actually strengthening the service member or the veteran as they're transitioning as well. If the family is operating like most of them do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I don't remember when I went through TAPS class, and I'm sure you did, Adam, too, when we transitioned out. I didn't see any dependents sitting alongside me telling them how that transition worked. So it can't be easy for them either.
And on the veteran mental health side of things is a lot of things that we're starting to see too, is the nonprofits creating spouse programs to be able to cover and meet the need of, the delayed flash to bang, so to speak, on the advocacy side, right? And that's why like these programs that you guys are developing and bringing into the community are so critical, Besa.
Yeah, our tagline here is "Together We're Stronger," and that can be viewed in so many different ways. It's together you're stronger when you're a family, together you're stronger with your community. And a lot of times what we're talking about is together we're stronger with the organizations that we work with to try to push for these issues. We've actually been working really closely with the American Legion, especially here, National Government Relations. The Executive Director, Mario Marquez, and I have been working really closely on some issues, particularly when it comes to quality of life. And there's the Be the One initiative, of course, that the Legion is championing, and that is so important. But what we've been talking about is the fact that the issues that veterans are facing come from this experience that they're having while they're in the military. You don't just wake up one day as a veteran and start having issues that go that far. So until we start focusing on what's happening over here, we won't see this problem solved. And we're taking it even further back, because I'm talking not just during service, but those kids, because who are our military? They're our military family members. Those are your most likely population to serve. So we need to take care of the kids. We need to take care of the teens, the active duty families, because this is our future force. And whether it's our future fighting force, or whether it's the people who are going to marry into the military, work in military communities, support our military, this is why it is so critical for our whole country to focus on the families.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so speaking of while in service, while in the military, while perusing the website, the NMFA, I'm gonna
Make it hard. We make it really hard to say.
you have a very robust website with a lot of resources. One thing that really caught my eye was your policy issues section, where you have the child care, healthcare, insurance, pay entitlements, things like that. Can you talk to me a little bit about how you gather that information, how people can kind of delve into those resources, how it's distributed, how it's applicable, things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. You don't know what you need until you need it. And so we want to make sure that it is all there and ready for you. So we do a lot of things like putting these resources out on social media. We're sending them on email. We have our newsletter. But again, until you're in that moment, it's just kind of in there somewhere. So we want to make sure that it's on our website, and you know that if you go to militaryfamily.org, you can look for those different resources. And the way that we aggregate them is really through our day-to-day work. We're working with families. We are hearing what the issues are that are most important. And then we're working with Defense Health Agency. We're working on the Hill. We're working with DoD, the service branches, and of course, all of our partner nonprofits. We're members of coalitions that are focused on different issues. So we're able to vet because we're a part of those coalitions, and we see who's doing the work and who has the resources that would really do the most good for our military families. But, I will always say that families should go to Military One Source as well, because that's where it all is. But for those issues that we are focused on and that we know the most about, you're going to find them here on our website.
Great. And that website's militaryfamily.org, correct?
Yep.
Well, I'm such an advocate for coalitions, because I think they do something so beautiful, which is make the sum greater than the individual parts. And you highlighted it so wonderfully. You don't have to do everything, but we should be able to come together with those that are providing all the different services and function. And then with that coalition and that network, I get requests like all day, every day. And most of it's just about knowing our people, our leaders, and our organizations to be able to direct them, to the right resource. One of the things that intrigued me when I was reading about your bio, Besa, just kind of shifting gears just a little bit, is meeting with world leaders, like the Prime Minister of Kosovo.
Yeah.
That must have been quite a powerful experience. How did that interaction impact you personally? Anything you want to share about it? And especially when thinking, obviously, about the way that military families support global missions.
Yeah, well, going way back in my life history, we already hit my journalism career, but my connection to the military before that was actually one of gratitude for the fact that the U.S. military saved my family's lives in Kosovo. So my dad is from born and raised. I spent every single summer there growing up. So my parents would drop us off at the end of school and pick us up right before the school year started again. So I have a huge family there. I spent so much time there. And when the war started, it was hopeless. I mean, my family's homes were burned down. I lost family members, and all of those images that you would see on the news with the families walking with everything that they owned and their families across mountains into other countries, that was my family. And my my grandmother was lost in a refugee camp somewhere. We couldn't find her. And my dad ended up going with a reporter, an ABC News reporter from Houston, actually, and went to refugee camps, opening tents to see if she was in there. And they found her in Albania. They found my aunt there. And I just remember when NATO and the United States intervened, it changed everything. It changed everything for my family. So I just always had this deep sense of gratitude. And as a reporter, I was actually able to go to Kosovo a year later. And interview our American troops who were stationed there. And I went to Camp Bonsteel and I was talking to all these young soldiers, and they were telling me about their families. And I'm ashamed to say that it didn't dawn on me that these people in uniform had a whole other group of people at home supporting them. I was just truly unaware. And so that is when I really first learned about the military family, what it means. And then that took me on kind of this other path, this journalistic path. So then recently it was the 20-year anniversary of that intervention. And so there have been a lot of different things, events here and also in Kosovo celebrating that anniversary. And so, yes, I was able to go and meet with the Prime Minister, and he expressed his gratitude, which, I definitely feel from the people of Kosovo all the time. But that's where that connection came for me.
Wow, that's
Oh,
really
wow.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, what a cool full circle story from your family's roots to being able to cover it journalistically to 2 decades later being able to go and be an advocate with what you're doing. It's
Well, I'm
remarkable.
really glad that your family survived that conflict. And it's crazy how unfortunate events like that have a ripple effect, but also the ability to bring out the resiliency in families like that as well. And interestingly enough, how small the world is. My husband is a veteran of that conflict as well.
Really?
Yeah, so when you're sitting there talking about it, I'm like, it's been 20 years. This is crazy. Um, and
Well,
strangely enough, my really good friend Beth Ann met her husband while deployed on that conflict. Anyway, it got my, like, when you were talking, I'm like, this is crazy how people come together, and they went on to get married and had 2 kids, and now their son serves in the military. Anyway, it's so strange.
it is,
How
and it's
beautiful things
beautiful.
can come from such horrendous um, origins. But I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad you're doing what you do. And Bessa, what's the next big thing for you? What's gonna be the next big thing on the horizon? What are your big hopes and dreams? What are your plans?
I mean, my plans are we got to push for these things right now while we can in the NDAA. So that's our big push. It's our 55th anniversary. So we're charting our path ahead. We're getting ready for camp season, but really big dreams are we got to fix that military spouse unemployment number. We got to make sure that our military families have the care that they need. And we have to expand these opportunities that we have to as many military family members as possible, because the need is great. We have twice the applications for camp as we're able to serve. We're only able to serve 10% of our scholarship recipients. And so there's this huge need. And so my dream is for everyone who needs that camp experience to have it, for every military teen to be able to go and find other teens to support them through this time, for military spouses to be able to get employment. And part of that also has to do with childcare. You mentioned the TAP program, and military spouses actually are welcome if you can find childcare for your kid and get away for the day, which is not always an easy thing to do, and if there is space. And so we're counting on service members to bring that information home. I just want to make sure that in every room when our military is discussed, there is someone raising their hand and saying, what about the families?
Well, thank you for that, Bessa. We really appreciate the time that you've spent with us today. It's been great to hear your full cycle journey and the coalition, the advocacy work that you're doing, the programs that you're doing for our military families. I believe when our families are healed, when our spouses are healed, when our children have the things they need to be successful, then the service member or the veteran can be at their best. And so the work you're doing is so incredibly important, and we're so grateful for you doing it. And of course, your team. We know that you're not doing it alone, and your partners. So Alphas, we'll have all of Besa's social media handles in our show notes if you want to follow her. Tell us that website where folks can get a hold of you or these resources one more time.
Militaryfamily.org, and of course, National Military Family Association on social media. And I'm really grateful for you and for this opportunity and for all you do to put these issues and these voices forward. Thank you so much.
Oh, of course, Besa. Is there anything else that you want to share before we sign off?
Nothing at all. Thank you, Mike.
Okay, great.
Thank you so much, Besa. Alphas, stick around for some scuttlebutt right after the break.
Be willing to show up for your veteran, your friend, your loved one. Be willing to trust your gut, follow your heart, take a risk. Be the one willing to ask, to guess wrong, to even offend another, to keep them safe, to remind them that they are valuable. If you know a veteran, be the one to reach out and make them a part of your life.
Okay, Alphas, we hope you had a great break. Now it's time for some scuttlebutt.
Here's some exciting news for y'all. 8 women veterans won their races during the recent elections, which means this will be the most women veterans serving in Congress ever, which is awesome. According to the Military Times, the next session of Congress will feature the most women veterans ever elected to the House and the Senate, with at least 8 winning races this year. And that number could grow by 1 more. Iowa Republican Marionette Miller Meeks holds a small lead in her re-election bid with a few thousand votes left to be counted, and a total is already doubled by 2018 when only 4 women with military experience were among the 535 voting members of Congress. The new freshman House includes South Carolina Republican Sherry Biggs, who served in the Air National Guard, and New Hampshire Democrat Maggie Goodlander, who served in the Navy Reserves. 2 incumbent female senators with military backgrounds did not face re-election campaigns this year. They are Iowa Republican Joni Ernst and Illinois Democrat Tammy Duckworth. All 4 incumbent House members won re-election. They are Democrats Mickey Sherrill of New Jersey and Chrissy Houlihan of Pennsylvania, and Republicans Anna Paulina Luna of Florida and Jennifer Keegans of Virginia. There are 15 veteran candidates, including Miller Meeks, who have yet to be formally decided. Already 79 veterans who won elections this cycle, joining 14 Senate incumbents who did not have races yet. However, at least one of these incumbent veterans is likely to step down because they are J.D. Vance, who got elected vice president. So, Adam, you know how I love to go down Reddit rabbit holes. I decided to go down and see what's on the interwebs and see what people had to say about veterans serving in politics. And I found an interesting thread titled, "Politicians Should Be Required to Serve in the Military." The body of the post posted by @PenguinStar7, which is a really interesting handle, stated in part, quote, "Before becoming eligible to run for any position of power, they should be required to serve in the military, so only people who have a dedication to success of this country run for office. Also, serving 4 years doesn't seem unreasonable," end quote. Before I get into the responses to @PenguinStar7, I'm curious, Adam, how do you feel about that?
Well, I think, as someone who served, this is kind of a topic of conversation. I think it's kind of, the conversation can always tend to, yes, you 100% should had to have served to be a politician. But I think one thing that strikes me is the challenge of requiring military service. As some of those Reddit users mentioned, maybe we could be careful not to exclude people who can serve our country in other powerful ways, right? So there's lots of ways that you can serve. It doesn't necessarily have to be military service. Maybe there's room for broader public service, but still having to have some kind of service requirement so politicians have experience contributing before they start creating policy, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
how can you if you haven't? I think that's
Yeah.
the question.
So I think what Adam's getting at is, @Madrafis said, You do realize that this would instantly disqualify most disabled people from public office, right? Do you think that disabled people deserve to be to represent themselves? That's a great question because, military service requires that you be physically fit, and most disabled people are disqualified for a number of reasons. At deleted, which is a really great handle in itself, responded, I think public service is great. I don't disagree with you, and that, service should be mandatory or necessarily limited to the military, though, for politicians. What about the forms of public service? Being a social worker, for example, that's great, great note as well. Requiring candidates to have some degrees in topic which concerns the country is a bit vague. I have a minor degree in economics and love the subject, but I don't think that someone who studied art or biology or French literature has anything less to offer. A diversity of backgrounds and educations is necessary for innovation. That's a great thought. People from all different backgrounds bring all different points of view. And I think, diversity in points of view is great for discussion and, debate. At my first throwaway, 132, I have no idea what that handle means, but I'm very intrigued. Send me a message. Anyway, they go on to say there are a few issues here, and they have points. Point 1, just because you join the military doesn't mean you would be a good politician. Very true. Point 2, there are several politicians currently that served, and that's debatable whether or not they actually have the good for the country at heart. Well, debatable. 3, not everyone in the military actually wants the best for America. Some are in it for the benefits and because it's expected of them. Also debatable. 4, everyone should have the right to get involved in politics unless there is something big that should bar them from that, or trying to put the military restrictions on kind of seems like putting the military above the civilians. That I agree with. And finally, John Doe was here in 1988, surmised, quote, I could see the president being a veteran as a requirement. Beyond that, I would suggest more that people in power should all be required to work in the service industry for 3 to 5 years. If they want to represent their constituents, they should know what they're talking about. Most don't. Very true, John Doe, very true. Here's my thought.
Well, let me say one thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I think one thing that was missing from all of that was like the business leader. So maybe add that into your thought, because what is the value of potentially, and I guess it depends on the level and the organization, but some of these organizations, higher up, you're responsible for hundreds of thousands of people and leading an organization and taking care of people. So that's for profit, not for profit, variance there. But at the end of the day, you have to make an impact for those people to retain them. So isn't there value in what they bring to the table as well?
Yeah.
It's another diverse background or experience.
Yeah. I think at all levels of leadership, down ballot, Senate, House of Representatives, presidency, vice presidency, whatever, there is room for veterans and non-veterans alike, civil servants, every level. And I think all levels of education, all demographics. I think representation is everything. I think I am so proud that there is going to be the most women veterans serving. This put a smile on my face because women are stepping up, and we are taking our place. And I think I couldn't be more proud of these women. And I think, and again, the more young women are seeing themselves, they are giving themselves the idea of hope and vision for themselves in the future. Whether they choose to serve in politics or as business leaders or whatever, they now see themselves represented in those positions. And I think a lot of that has to do with visualization, goals, and dreams. Now, in politics, particularly, diversity is important and representation is important. So is military service a requirement? Oh gosh, I think service to one's country is important in any facet. So I think there is merit to service in one's country, whether military or civil service. So that's just my 2 cents. If you want to get on Reddit, join us at reddit.com/ r/Tango Alpha Lima and let us know what you think. Do you think that military service should be a requirement to serve as a political leader in this country? Adam, what do you got for Scuttlebutt?
In Detroit, a 600-pound bronze statue of Tuskegee Airman has been found after it was stolen from a city park. The statue of Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Jefferson was reported missing in late October from Rogue Park on Detroit's far west side, police said. It appeared to have been sawed off at the ankles. Surveillance cameras on nearby businesses showed a large rental truck leaving the area on the night it disappeared. Officers spoke to operators of the rental truck company and learned the truck has GPS. They then found out the person who rented the truck was suspected of other robberies. They ran him down in real time and caught him. He turned over the statue and confessed. Some great detective work there, some NCIS. Lieutenant Colonel Jefferson was a member of the famed Red Tails during World War II. The unit escorted bombers over Europe. Jefferson was shot down and held as a prisoner of war. He returned home to Detroit following his release. Jefferson later taught in schools and served as a vice principal. He helped form the Tuskegee Airmen chapter in Detroit. While the famed unit was based in Tuskegee, Alabama, Michigan served as an advanced training ground during the war. Jefferson's statue was unveiled in June in the plaza dedicated to him. The area of the park was where Jefferson flew model airplanes. I love that. On his 100th birthday in 2021, Jefferson was honored by the city of Detroit. He died in 2022. What do you think about the statue heist gone wrong?
I have so many questions. First of all, why desecrate the statue of a war hero? I don't understand that idea. And second, bronze is not really worth anything in the weight of metal. It's not like it's copper. You know, people tend to break into houses like new home builds to get copper because it's very valuable.
It's not
It's
600
bronze.
pounds of bronze, is
And
it?
600 pounds is wily. Even if you cut it off at the ankles, you're going to need a freaking forklift to get that up in the back of whatever you're hauling that with is going to need to be robust. That takes a lot of logistical forethought. So why? 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 So whoever is goilty of this crime, I hope while you're serving the time, whomever you're serving alongside really whips you down to the ankles, if you know what I'm saying, and gives you a piece of their mind. And to our esteemed Colonel Alexander Jefferson, I really appreciate your service. Thank you for everything that you did, not only during the war, but in the years after as a vice principal in education. You're a war hero. Salute to you. And to Michigan's finest police officers, thank you for doing your due diligence and reclaiming the statue. Hopefully they can put it back and put it in its rightful place and back in working order.
Yeah, I just chat GPT this. As of November, so it's only as accurate as chat GPT. As of November 12th, 2024, the average scrap price for bronze in the United States is $2.23 per pound. Therefore, 600 pounds of bronze would be valued at a whopping $1,300.
So is that worth somebody who was a World War II veteran and a POW? I don't think so. That's a slap in the
Not to you
face.
and me, but to that person, obviously it was. But Lieutenant Colonel Jefferson didn't just serve his country, like you said. He returned home. He served his community by teaching and mentoring. His life work extended well beyond the battlefield. So let's hope that having his statue back reminds everyone, especially in Detroit, of the power of resilience and the impact one person can have on both their country and their community. Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel Jefferson, for all that you did.
Yes. Oh, well, I think if you guys are out there and you've got statues in your community and they're looking a little run down, maybe consider getting out there, getting a team of your alphas together and maybe getting a cleanup party. That might be something fun to do. Just my little final thought and shout out for this week. What's your
Or if
final-
they're bronze, scrap it for $2.23 a pound.
I don't think so.
That's
I
my
don't
final
think
thought.
so. Get your toothbrushes out and have a GI party on your local military statues, everybody. That's my final
All right,
thought.
Alphas. Thanks for listening. You can subscribe to our podcast, our newsletter, or send Stacy a mail and guest recommendations at legion.org/Tango Alpha Lima. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, I think I like